Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanacharim Yamuna Tira Vanacharim Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanacharim Yamuna Tira Vanacharim Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaladari Jaya Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanacharim Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Shri Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Ki Jai Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasa Tato Jayamudhirayet. Hare Krishna, good morning. So, Deutsch oder Englisch? Wer versteht kein Englisch? Also, wer versteht kein Englisch? Yeah, don't raise your hands wrong, otherwise I get confused. Who doesn't understand German? It's almost same, huh? Wer kann übersetzen? Welche Sprache übersetzt du lieber? Ja? Sprechen Englisch, dann kannst du ins Deutsche übersetzen. So we'll have German translation at the back with Prabhu. We are reading from the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 17. Maharaj Prithu becomes angry at the earth. Text 27. 27 dran? Yes. Please repeat. Tvam stabdham durmadam nitva maya gang tilashaha sharaihi atma yogam balenema darayishyami aham prajaha tvam stabdam durmadam nitva mayagam tilasha sharahi mayagam tilasha sharahi atmayoga balenema atmayoga balenema Dharayishyami aham prajaha Dharayishyami aham prajaha Tvam stabdham durmadam nitvam Mayagam tilashah sharahi Atmayoga balenema Dharayishyami aham prajaha Tvam stabdam durmadam nitvam Mayagam tilashah sharahi Atmayoga balenema Dharayishyami aham prajaha. Ladies. Anybody else? Then we'll read the translation word by word. Tvam, you, stabdham, very much puffed up. Durmadam, mat, nitva, bringing into such a condition. Mayagam, false cow. Tilashaha, into small particles like grains. Sharaihi, by my arrows. Atma, personal. Yoga balena, by mystic power. Imaha, all these. Dara yishyami, shall uphold. Aham, I. Prajaha, all the citizens or all the living entities. Translation on purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupada Ki Jai. You are very much puffed up with pride and have become almost insane. Presently, you have assumed the form of a cow by your mystic powers. Nonetheless, I shall cut you into small pieces like grains, and I will uphold the entire population by my personal mystic powers. Purport. The earth informed King Prithu that if he destroyed her, he and his subjects would all fall down into the waters of the Garbha ocean. King Prithu now replies to this point. Although the earth assumed the shape of a cow by her mystic powers in order to be safe from being killed by the king was aware of this fact and would not hesitate to cut her into pieces, just like small bits of grain. As far as the destruction of the citizens is concerned, Maharaj Prithu maintained that he could uphold everyone by his own mystic powers. He did not need the help of the earthly planets. Being the incarnation of Lord Vishnu, Prithu Maharaj possessed the power of Sankarshana, which is explained by the scientists as the power of gravitation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is holding millions of planets in space without any support. Similarly, Prithu Maharaj would not have had any difficulty supporting all his citizens and himself in space without the help of the planet Earth. The Lord is known as Yogeshvara, master of all mystic powers. Consequently, the planet Earth was informed by the king that she need not worry about his standing without her help. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyanangjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitamtam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Namo Prabhupada Priyadasaya Jagannatha Yatra Nandamurtaye Bhakta Sukaya Krishna Utkirtanena Nisinghena Rakshataya Namaha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyadi Shatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Once again the verse. Tvang stabdham durmadang nitva maya gang tilashak sharahi atma yoga balene ma Dharayishyami aham prajaham. You're very much puffed up with pride and have become almost insane. Presently, you have assumed the form of a cow by your mystic powers. Nonetheless, I shall cut you into small pieces like grains, and I will uphold the entire population by my personal mystic powers. So this is a very interesting section of the story of Prithu Maharaj, where he is quite angry and upset and ready to kill Mother Earth in the shape of a cow. And so this is very maybe shocking, because usually, of course, the cows and Mother Earth are held in high regard and big respect. And this is also in the previous verses. Bhumi Devi herself is bringing these arguments to the king. When the king is threatening her, she's saying, you know, you are a righteous king, you would never kill a cow, you would never harm a woman, so don't harm me. And also, what is being referred here, this is the answer to this argument. Mother Earth is saying, if you destroy me, then where will all the citizens go? You know, if the air, like this is a common, you could say, modern fear also, because nowadays we are also witnessing, you know, a big destruction and contamination of the planet. Huge islands of plastic swimming in the ocean. Some of these islands of plastic are as big as, you know, Belgium. You know, huge islands of plastic. And we know, because the plastic is all pervading now, even in the food is plastic, and the ocean salt is plastic, everywhere is microplastic, you know. So your body also is now plastic, you know, because you're consuming plastic. We live in the plastic age. And so many people are concerned, you know, we only have one earth, so if we destroy this one earth, then our home will be gone, you know. This is our, our place of living, so we should be smart enough to not destroy our planets. Yeah? Also, another threat is, of course, is nuclear war. You know? Still, Russia and America have, I forgot the exact numbers, but thousands and thousands of nuclear warheads, you know, for submarines, for planes, intercontinental rockets, and whatnot. And they could destroy, I forgot the exact number, but they actually produce so many weapons, they could destroy the planet a few times over, you know. So it's more than enough to destroy the Earth once. You can destroy the Earth a few times. So that was the madness of, you know, in the Cold War. How do you say in English? Wettrüsten. There was this competition in, you know, armaments, you know, between the Soviet bloc and America. And like that, there's many threats. Also, you know, global warming. Many people think it's a big threat. You know, so all kinds of such threats could bring a situation where, you know, the place we live in is destroyed, and then, you know, we have no place to live, no home, basically. And this is the argument also that Bhumi Devi brought to Prithu Maharaj. And Prithu Maharaj is replying that just like you have manifested with your mystic powers the form of a cow, I, with my mystic powers, can protect and support all the living entities. You know? So praja is the word, praja. So there's the Raja and the Praja. You know? So the Raja is the king and the Praja is the population. And they have a very intimate relationship, actually. So in the Vedic tradition puts a very strong emphasis between the relationship between the Raja and the Praja. And generally speaking, the mood in the Vedic tradition is, you know, swasti, praja. You know? So there should be auspiciousness for all the living entities. You know? Everybody should be supplied with enough rain. You know? There are many verses like that. You know, how does it go? Swasti, praja. Someone knows this verse? Somebody did a yoga chitta training? No? They chant it all the time there. Swasti, praja. And then We should protect the cows, should protect the brahmanas, then naturally there will be rain, there will be auspiciousness, and so on and so forth. So if we understand the Vedic tradition, there is a very strong emphasis that actually the relationship between the king and the citizens was not a relationship of exploitation or tyranny. Because in modern times that has been the main, you could say, impetus and justification for democracy. So democracy is required because in recent history we only witnessed tyrannical kings. So if a tyrannical king basically is exploiting the citizens instead of providing them with their needs. So in this example here, Prithu Maharaj is ready to like go to the edge of what is necessary to provide for his citizens. Even destroying the planet. He said, "I'll cut you to pieces and I'll feed my people, and I'll have enough mystic powers to support them. Don't worry, I don't need you." And so this is a real king. A real king is ready to go out of his way to provide for his citizens. And of course, the story goes that the French Revolution started because Marie Antoinette, young princess, she was looking out of the beautiful Versailles Palace, at the gates, and at the gates were all these peasants and, poor people of Paris, banging and screaming, "We want bread," They were starving, And what did she say? Give them cake, Now, why they want bread, They should eat cake. It's much better, So then the story goes that the word spread like wildfire, And then people just really freaked out. So then within few hours, or a few days, I don't know exactly, Marie Antoinette's head was rolling, guillotine. And that was the end of the monarchy, to some extent. Then Napoleon came, but officially the end of monarchy, in France. And this set like a whole, you could say, chain of reactions, of revolutions, across the world, across Europe, especially in the beginning, where the position of a monarch was put into question. Because similar like in the Vedic times, the monarch had like an untouchable position. In one sense, maybe considered godly or a representative of God. And in Kali Yuga, we have seen repeatedly, of course, that individuals, in that position of power, became very corrupt and exploited the people while they were living extremely lavish lives. The population was very often, on the verge of, extinction, suffering like anything. So this is not the Vedic tradition. The Vedic tradition is very clear that the king is considered to be like a father, actually. So he's supposed to be a father figure. And in the Mahabharata, we have the story of Maharaj Bharat. So basically, India and also the Mahabharata are named after Maharaj Bharat. So not to be confused with Bharata, the brother of Lord Ram, but also Bharat, Maharaj. He is, you could say, also many examples are there, of course, but he's one of the original examples of how a king should behave. And he was very chivalrous. Of course, his upbringing also was very unique. He was born in the jungle, fathered by a rishi in the womb of an apsara. And he grew up in the jungle, was very courageous. It's a famous story. Maharaj Bharat was going in the jungle, playing with the lions. And he would jump on their backs, turn their heads, and they said, "Open your mouth, I want to count your teeth." So he was a very strong boy. And later on, he became the king. So a king should be very powerful, physically, mentally, should have splendor, it is described. And the qualities of a king is that he should be, who knows the verse in the Bhagavad Gita? Charitable, courageous. Sorry? Kannst du die Übersetzung sagen? Tejas, yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Generous, charitable, yes. So these are the qualities of a king, and Maharaj Bharat embodied these qualities. And one of the very famous examples of Maharaj Bharat is that he was available always in his durbar, in his assembly hall. Everybody could come and directly issue a complaint. And I don't know any anecdotes anymore, but there's many examples like that in Vedic tradition where a normal citizen can directly walk up to the king and complain about something going wrong, in the kingdom. And it went even to that level that, what was the story? Was it with Maharaj Yudhishthira? Where somebody complained that his son had died. So if the son dies before the father, it's the fault of the king. It's unnatural, The son should live longer than the father. That's the natural order of things. So if for some reason the son died earlier, they went and complained to the king. What are you doing? Help us. So we might laugh at this, but this was the level of expectation, on the king. A very high level of expectation, and I think the story then goes, I'm pretty sure it was Maharaj Yudhishthira, and then Arjuna and Krishna go to figure out and rectify the situation, And it's a very, very interesting story because Arjuna and Krishna meet whom? Mahavishnu. So, very amazing story. And yes, they managed to bring the son back as far as I remember. So, in the previous verses, the 2 verses ago especially, was this very famous verse and purport where Srila Prabhupada is talking about that a king or the government might even allow the eating of flesh, or the killing of cows to provide for the citizens. So this is really, extraordinary, because usually that would be an absolute no-go. But in this purport and in this verse, it is explained and sanctioned that there might be a situation where that might be necessary. And there is, but of course, Srila Prabhupada, the remaining part of the purport explains that that's, how does he say? Let me see. Very in rare circumstances, when people are suffering the want of grains, meat eating and flesh eating can be allowed, but not otherwise. So there is a very interesting historical anecdote in the 60s in India. India was going through quite a few droughts, and there was a lot of shortage of food, and many people were dying, and so India, emerged from colonialism in a very bad condition, you can say. And when this famines were taking place, when they were nowhere near as bad as they were during colonial times, but still, people were dying. And then the Western people and the Western media, they were advising, these Hindus, they're just not smart. They have so many cows, they should just eat them. They don't need to hunger. They don't need to pass hunger. They should just eat their cows. And for many people that seemed like reasonable suggestion. Very similar situation, like here. The king is saying, Prabhupada says the government might allow the slaughtering of cows in a very unique, extraordinary situation. Of course, the mass of people in India still would not do that. They would not that it didn't happen. Even that was the recommendation. Many people thought might be a good idea. And later on, a research was made if actually that would have been a good idea or not. So because the recommendation is there, theoretically it could have been done, and many Western people thought it's a good idea also. Shri Shri Prahlad Lakshmana Singari Bhagavan Ki Jai. So, but then later they figured out actually, if India at that time would have slaughtered all its cows, to feed the masses of the people, then the real catastrophe would have started when the meat was over. So basically, if Prithu Maharaj does that, or if there's an extraordinary situation, it might be allowed. But in general, we understand from the the explanations of Srila Prabhupada that actually the cow is in all its presence a blessing for humanity. So the research showed very clearly that they would have had food for I think how many months? A few months there would have been food. If everybody would have changed their diets. And all the cows would have been eaten. And then within a very short period of time, for the next harvest, they would have realized how there's not enough manure. Not enough manure. And then with the decline of manure, the decline of other grains and other vegetables would also have declined. So the calculation was that within 3 years, then the real problem would have started. Of course, you could also use chemicals to grow vegetables and grains. That's also another story of India, the Green Revolution. But and it gave grains for a while, but now all of Punjab, is poisoned soil basically. So the better idea is to protect the cows and use the cows as they were traditionally used, in ancient times. And in ancient times, the idea was actually of or the custom was of a semi-nomadic maintenance of cows. So if you read the story of Krishna and Krishna Lila, we know that Krishna was born in Gokula, but later they moved to Vrindavan. So, and the reason is described in the Bhagavatam that the cowherd boys, they realized, the cowherd men, Nanda Maharaj, they realized, this area has been already, grazed enough, so we will move on. So they moved on. They didn't overgraze, an area. And when cows graze, they of course produce also cow dung, and the cow dung is a natural, nutrient, for the soil. So if it's done properly, like in a pattern of migration, then nature flourishes actually, by the presence of cows and any big herd animal actually. But of course, especially cows for us important. And this is a very interesting topic because there is one very famous speaker, I always forget his name, but he gave a speech at TED Talks. You might have noticed TED Talks as like, I think the logo is ideas worth sharing, something like this. And he was sharing his experience, how they, many scientists and environmentalists, one of their main aims is to try to stop the expansion of deserts, because in different parts of the planet, Africa, India, Central Asia, Mexico, even around Berlin, many areas, we have a desertification. It's like less and less varieties grow, more and more sandy, dry soil develops. So desertification is a big problem that many people are concerned. You might have heard about in Africa, there is this green wall they want to build. They want to plant like a big line of trees from east to west in Africa to prevent the Sahara from expanding, because it is expanding quite fast, swallowing entire villages, and areas. So they were developing different ideas. How do we do it? And one of the ideas they had was, all these big grazing animals. So in many areas in the savannah, in Africa, in South Africa and also Northern Africa, they had huge, herds of elephants, of buffaloes, giraffes, all kinds of different, big herds of big animals. And they thought, okay, that's the problem. They're eating everything, all the vegetation, and that's the problem. So they decided to go around with a helicopter and shoot them. For the sake of saving the environment, they thought they're doing something good, They thought they're doing a favor to nature, There are too many big animals, they're overgrazing, they're destroying everything. But then, within a very short time, I think within 2 years, they realized that actually the problem became even worse, much worse. And the reason was very simple, because now in the first year it looked like it was good. All these grazing animals were gone, so the grass was growing. It was not like eaten; it was growing and growing and growing, and very nice. But then the dry season came, and all the grass suffocated, dried up, and was lying there. So the next year, the new grass could barely come through, because there was so much dry grass on top, and then that means that within a very short period of time, many areas declined even faster, So then they realized, something we're doing wrong, So then they realized that actually, which areas, they realized that areas where they had still nomad people grazing their animals, those areas were protected, So, like that. So it might be a situation where nature animals, overproduce, and or reproduce, and then naturally, of course, nature will balance it out. There will be less food, then they will die out, But if we consciously want to improve the situation, is by keeping herds, and manage them, not keep them in one place, You manage them, You graze them in different places and move them in different places, and that way, nature recovers very fast, actually. So then they applied the opposites, They took sheep, I think, mainly, and different herd animals, and of course also applies to cows, and they brought them to half deserted areas, And then within a very short period of time, dead rivers came back to life, because the whole ecosystem changed. When there's enough manure in the soil, grass grows back, etc. So you could say there is a very clear scientific and provable explanation that actually the lifestyle of Vrindavan is actually the best lifestyle for the planet. We of course live nowadays in cities, and we are used, even if we live in the countryside, we have, we enjoy urban facilities, You have a Lidl nearby, and Deichmann, and so it's actually urban life, even if we live in the countryside. And as long as it's there, we might use it. We can use everything in Krishna's service. But ultimately, Srila Prabhupada's recommendation in the remaining part of the 4th canto will be again and again that we should actually learn to live very simple. Very close to nature. Eating local produce. And the more we do that, we can ensure that we have actually safe, prosperous life. Because our current lifestyle is not sustainable. It's not sustainable. So sustainable means it's shaky. It could any time break apart. If there's an oil crisis, you won't get any more, strawberries from South Africa, and kiwis from New Zealand, and so on. So, yes. The point I'm trying to make is that this is a very exceptional situation here, and we should not focus too much on the fact that Prithu Maharaj is threatening Mother Earth, and could be easily misconstrued and misunderstood, similarly, like, Krishna recommending Arjuna to fight, very often is misconstrued, I say Krishna is for violence, But the point here is Prithu Maharaj as a king was ready to do anything to provide for his citizens. He was an extremely compassionate king and ready to do anything to make sure his citizens were taken care for. That's the main, you could say, lesson we can take from this. And yes, like I mentioned, in the following parts of the 4th canto, Srila Prabhupada will talk a lot about living simple, living in the countryside, and we have already a farm, and Srila Prabhupada actually recommended that we should have enough farms, to supply for ourselves and supply all the city temples. There was this strategy actually. So we don't have enough farms in Germany, only one actually. Golokadam is in the countryside, but does not have actually agricultural land. So Recently, we received a visit from devotees from Indian devotees, or you could say like Indian community from Linz, and they want to open a new temple. And they want to open a new temple, and they have. I asked them, "What is your mission? What is your idea? What do you want to achieve? And they were not how do you say, small thinkers. The lady said she wants to create the main center for education and Vedic culture in Central Europe. And her husband, she's a professor of chemistry, I think, and her husband is a professor of artificial intelligence, and he was really focused on cows. We have to have cows. We have to do. So he said, yes, if you help us, develop a prototype here, we will have some milk, but it could be more successful. Then we can copy the prototype we have here. We can start in Linz and then somewhere else. But yes, the time is ripe. The world has realized that actually we should live more sustainable lives. There is this Sustainable Development Goals for 2030. It's only 5 years to go. And actually, all countries, all organizations are expected, and we're also working with the European Union. We are expected to try to implement those sustainable development goals. And while they might have some misconstrued ideas, because veganism is a big part of this idea, they think that veganism is the solution, but veganism is not the solution. Veganism ultimately is what the scientists tried to do in Africa. They destroyed all the herds, and it was even worse than before. So if everybody becomes vegan, nobody will have cows. And if there's no cows, there will be no manure. And you can, you can think of the rest. So the solution is, of course, ahimsa, cow protection. We can take milk. There is no need to exploit them and kill them. So there is, you could say, the golden middle path. There is the industrial milk exploitation, where they kill the cows after very few years. I saw once this graph of like a whole list of maybe 20 different animals, what their natural lifespan is and how soon they are slaughtered. It's shocking. It's shocking. I don't know, many animals can live, a few, like even chicken can live up to 10 years, I think, They never make it, Yeah, as babies or once they reach, depends. If they're male, they're, straight away killed. So this is a very horrible situation, of course, and it's natural that some people say, okay, we have to become vegan, We have to stop all of this, like straight away, We don't have anything to do with that, And it's a good sentiment, but it's actually catastrophic, And also, of course, all kinds of, you might have seen this clip, Cowspiracy. You know this clip, Cowspiracy? No? Nobody has seen it? Cowspiracy. Okay, you're all not brainwashed, very good. But it's a very, very common clip that is shared among, the vegan propaganda, that basically cows are destroying the planet, Cows' farts, cows' gases, are much more than all the factories, planes, cars combined. That's the basic message of this video. So we should become vegan. But the reality is that, of course, the gases emanating from a cow cannot be compared from the gases emanating from even a small scooter. If you sleep with a scooter in your bedroom, you will die. If it's on, all night. But if you sleep with 20 cows, you will not die. So there is a difference, between nails and spinach. They all have iron, but there's a difference. So like that, actually, if we keep cows properly, then we can nurture the earth and especially please Krishna and have everything we need to survive. Okay, I'll stop here. Maybe there are some questions, comments. Kripa Sindhu?
Example already many times. And if she meant this in a bad way, like in a cynical way, and she thought it's funny, or if she was really kind of in such an illusion and she was living in such in a good situation that she did not understand how bad the people are. What?
Yeah, I like when I was telling the story, I was telling it's kind of like how the story goes, but many historians will disagree, you know, about how exactly the story went, you know, and who knows what she was feeling, you know. Maybe she was cynical, maybe she was just in complete illusion. In any case, you know, she was killed, that's for sure. So people were so outraged, you know, and of course because not only all the kings of Europe used to meet in Versailles, you know, it was kind of like the playground of many kings didn't even live in their country, they just live in Versailles because it was, you know, so much fun, you know. So there was like a huge like difference, you know, how the royals were living in Versailles and the normal people in Paris. Of course, later Paris was renovated, but at that time, Paris was like one of the worst places to live. Like there's like many descriptions, you know, the sanitation and poverty and diseases and like heavy, you know. But yeah, I don't think you could research in history what exactly it's believed to have been her actual thoughts, you know. But and Prabhu was once saying that some people say that didn't even happen, you know. There was just a rumor, you know, to kill the kings, you know. So the revolutionaries used this rumor, you know, but the rumor was certainly there, and the rumors outraged the people, you know. Maybe Marie Antoinette didn't even say anything, you know. Who knows?
Thank you. And the second question is regarding the really rare exception to slaughter cows.
Mm.
We also see that with Jesus that there's this straightforward point. God conscious means not to kill cows, not to kill animals, not to eat meat.
Yeah.
This is our straight point. But also then we see that Prabhupada, he kind of agrees. He says, yeah, Jesus might have eaten meat, but he can do that. For us, it does not mean we imitate it. Can you maybe explain this a little bit more?
I know Srila Prabhupada also said, for example, if you want to really eat the cow's meat, you wait until she dies naturally. Prabhupada said that a few times. And about this, like what you said, that in relation to Jesus Christ, I'm not sure. Do you have that? There's a conversation between Prabhupada where he said something like this? Okay.
It's like Prabhupada agrees that Jesus might have eaten meat, but it does not mean for us that we can do that also.
Yeah.
And Prabhu is also an exceptional person. He can do that, but he can do that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, certainly it's an exception. And I want to say something else. I forgot. I've forgotten what I want to say. Sorry. But yes, it is an exception. It's not something to be imitated. And sorry, I'm really sorry. Give me half a minute, maybe I remember.
Jesus Christ eat meat and he's completely God conscious, and actually
yes.
it's not.
Garuda is another example. That's what I wanted to say. Oh. Yes. So Garuda, you know, he's the carrier of the Lord. You know, in front of every temple, he's there. But he's a meat eater. You know, he's a big bird and he's very hungry. You know? And he likes especially snake spaghetti. You know. So. But still, he's a pure devotee, you know. So like that. So it is possible for sure. You know, it's not, but generally speaking, yeah, it's not something we want to imitate. We're not Garuda. We don't have the body, the digestion, you know, of Garuda. So I think this is the most, you could say, direct example. Somebody directly related to the Lord, and he's not a vegetarian. Yeah, but anatomically speaking, we can see, you know, like this is like also very common argument, you know, we can see that our, you know, digestion system, the length of our intestines, the shape of our teeth, you know, the shape of our nails, you know, it's all not meant for jumping at an animal and eating it up. It's not made for that. You need tools, and then maybe you can manage. But naturally speaking, you can live from herbs, anything that you find in nature. That's the most natural, natural foodstuff for humans. And of course, the aspect of violence, and karmas, and ultimately, I don't know how Garuda does it. If he offers his snakes, to how he does it, how it becomes prasadam for him. But the main reason, like many devotees say, we are not vegetarians actually. We're not vegetarians. We're also not lacto-vegetarians. We are prasadarians. We only eat prasadam. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, patram pushpam phalam tayam. So that's why we are vegetarians. If Krishna would enjoy something else, we would add it to our diet. But the recommendation of Krishna is lacto-vegetarian diet. So that's why we follow that diet.
Thank you.
Na, Svedasara war zuerst.
Danke sehr. Nur eine kleine Mini-Frage, weil du gesagt hast, Maharaj Bharat wäre im
Mahabharat.
Ja, genau, dass er darin vorkommt. Ja. Aber es ist nicht dasselbe wie im Bhagavatam. Maharaj Bharat, der dann zu Jada Bharat wird.
Ja, stimmt, das ist ein dritter Bharata, ja. Ja, das ist ein dritter, das sind drei. Ja. Bharata, der Bruder von Ram, Bharat in Bhagavatam, und Bharat, das ist der Sohn von einem Rishi und einer Apsara.
Weil da wird ja auch beschrieben, dass er ein großer Rishi, also ein großer Raja Rishi, ein großer König ist eigentlich.
Ja, das ist aber zwei. Das ist ein anderer, ja. Also, weil speziell in Mahabharata wird, Bharat Maharaj in Bhagavatam hat auch seine Söhne unterwiesen, das ist also auch gilt als eine unglaublich fortgeschrittene Persönlichkeit, aber in Mahabharata wird speziell der Regierungsstil ganz stark beschrieben, wie er mit seinen Untertanen umgegangen ist, wie er Probleme gelöst hat, wie großzügig er war, und es gilt sogar als eine Form von Demokratie, weil es also so nah am Volk war, wie er regiert hat. Ja. Sanjay Prabhu?
Ich hatte nur einen Gedanken zu Kripasindhu Prabhus Zitat von Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah, sorry, English, yeah.
Yes, okay. That Srila Prabhupada said that, yes, Jesus Christ could do that, but it sounds like his opponent is saying, but Jesus did, and so in a situation, Srila Prabhupada said, okay, maybe you are right, maybe. Probably not, but if you are right, then still. So I wanted to add that thought. And Bharat, in the first canto, there is one purport. Srila Prabhupada is explaining, I think it's 3. Maybe it's 4 even, I don't remember. But one is
true. He explains all the names, yeah.
One is the brother of Lakshman and Ramachandra. One is the son of Dushyanta. That is the great ruler. And the third one is the son of Rishabhadev, who became a deer and
yes.
Jada Bharat.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, Srila Prabhupada is very, I say, schlagfertig, sagt man auf Deutsch. Very good in argumenting, Like nobody could win an argument against him. So, and there's this famous discussion between Srila Prabhupada and this French bishop. Remember? You might have, sure you saw that, this French bishop in Paris. But why did you need to go? Srila Prabhupada is like very heavy. Jesus said, don't kill, And it's like, no, kill does not mean, like, he would say murder. No, not kill. I was like, it's like very heated argumentation between Srila Prabhupada and this bishop. And Srila Prabhupada is pushing very strongly that Jesus said you should not kill. Simple. Nothing. No kill, nothing. No kill means no kill. Yes.
Krishna, thank you for the lecture. It was inspiring. Also, I got inspired also from these questions with meat eating and so. And my question is, some time ago I meditated about this topic. I mean, we have in the Bhagavad Gita this Patram Pushpam Palam Toyam, But I'm wondering why it is not a little bit clearer explained. I mean, offer water, fruits, leaf, but there's nowhere stated we should not eat meat or whatever, or this should be only for eating or whatever. It's not very clear in different scriptures. Like for example, the Bible is, I think, way more clear that we should not eat meat. And I'm wondering a little bit why, even when we read the Manu Dharma Shastra, is also recommended some meat eating under circumstances, and it's a little bit, I mean, questionable. Why? I mean, I was also questioning why it's actually not so clear.
Yeah, like would be nice if Krishna would have said, a whole like the, the song of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaja Bhakata Vatsala Shri Guru Hari. Would have been nice if Krishna Bhagavad Gita gave a whole list, of his favorite recipes. Yeah, but Vedic tradition was very inclusive, So Vedic tradition did not exclude those who were meat eaters. This is very clear that actually, in traditionally, there were Vaishnavas are expected to be vegetarians naturally, but and Brahmanas also. But Kshatriyas and other sections of society might not necessarily be expected to be pure vegetarians. That's quite clear from the purpose of Srila Prabhupada, and also, what we see in India, that actually, where there are big Brahminical communities, there's a lot of vegetarianism, but in areas where there is less Brahminical communities, you will have meat eating is relatively common. But the consensus is that they will not slaughter the cow. So that's the consensus. So Hindus, even Bhaktivinoda Thakur, before he became a full-fledged Vaishnava, he used to eat, meat. Certainly not cow flesh, but other types of meat is described. So, yes. I don't know if there are some I could not recall if there's somewhere in a specific warning against, or well, I know that there's this I forgot which Purana it is, where it is discouraged directly to eat meat by in a way when you kill an animal. Prabhupada quotes this quite a few times. When you kill an animal, you have to chant this mantra, which basically says, "I'm killing you now, and in the future you have the right to take my flesh." So you become conscious of the karmic, burden you're taking upon yourself by, killing an animal. Yes.
Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, he defines food in the modes.
Yeah, true.
And in the mode of ignorance, it's mentioned untouchable things. So if I understand it correctly, untouchable includes meat. So in the Bhagavad Gita, it's just that one word, but I guess there are scriptures where it is elaborately described what untouchable food means.
Yeah, no, this is a very good point. Actually, we have in the Bhakti Yoga book also a very nice table, and I used it a lot when I was teaching yoga students. Food in the three modes of material nature. You can talk hours and hours about it. It's a very interesting topic because there is, sattvic food, ideally. So sattvic means you grow it yourself, you take it from the garden, and then you offer it to Krishna, then it becomes pure sattva. But then there might be sattvic tamasic food, like potato chips. You're traveling somewhere, nothing to eat, so you get potato chips, So it's potatoes, vegetarian, it's sattvic, but a little bit tamasic because who knows when they were fried, how many years ago. And they have been stored in this package, But you still offer it to Krishna because it is sattvic, The moment it has no element of sattva in there, you can't offer it to Krishna anymore. So it's a very interesting, you can go through all the different combinations. But yes, ideally we have sattvic food that becomes Shuddha Sattva by offering it, making it prasadam. Yeah.
It's very interesting, this point what you made, that so far it is not some sattvic inside we cannot offer. Is it somewhere written in some text, or?
Well, I know it's that I don't know a Sanskrit text, but it's in the Bhakti Yoga book from Adi Shesha.
Okay, and it sounds very, very logical. It's very good.
No, I know that somewhere, I'm not sure in relation to food, but somewhere it's explained that the gunas are, of course, like the three colors, and they come in different shades of mixtures, of course. So there is, there is this verse saying that the gunas rarely appear in their pure form. They're always mixed. There's always a mixture. And then there's this categorization, of like sattva, rajas, sattva, rajas, tamas, sattva, tamas, tam, and so on. Like you can make like a whole big table, all the three. Yes.
And just one point regarding this point of Munindra, that not in that purport of Patram Pushpam Palam Toyam, but in another purport, Prabhupada refers to authorities. He says in the past, authorities have fixed what is a food in the mode of goodness, or food for humanity, basically. And he says, like sugar, wheat, and all these things. As he refers to authorities. But my question would also be, maybe you have heard about who are these authorities and where this, because it's not detailed, clear. It just says authorities have fixed it, but we don't know more about this. Maybe you know more about this?
No, I wouldn't know exactly. Anything else? Thank you very much. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai.